Alrighty folks, this is a year one follow-up to the Mosin Nagant M91 that I purchased, a reproduction sniper rifle about this time last year, and I've probably put about 200 rounds through it so far. Maybe more, but probably about that many so far. And mechanically it's held up over the time. I just want to give you a review of this because right now, other than the Chinese Model 53 carbine Mosin Nagants, these are the only other Mosin Nagants you can buy right now. I guess the container ship that's bringing the surplus stock over here hasn't gotten here yet, or I don't know. You talk to these dealers and they don't really give you a whole lot of details about when the next shipments are going to come in. No one seems to know really when that is, even CAI, which is where the predominant majority of these come from. In any event, I have finally got this thing sighted in. I'm going to show you some of these targets in a minute as I slowly progressed in getting it set up. I unfortunately do not have any footage because the range out in Mesquite that I usually go to that allows for full metal jacket, which I've been shooting this Russian and then Bulgarian surplus ammo. The only place I can shoot it at 100 yards or more is out there in Mesquite, and they don't allow cameras, amongst other weird quirks about that place. So I'll just have to show you what I have. But in any event, so far it's held up fairly well. No mechanical problems. I haven't had to worry about the barrel bands slipping or moving out. It's still sweating a little bit, the sweating in Cosmoline, but that's not really an issue with me. A couple of things I want to point out to you folks who buy one of these, because you can get them fairly inexpensively still from Southern Ohio Gun for like $350 to $399, and then a little bit more at other places. One of the things you might notice is right now, let's zoom in on that. As you can see, it's set at 100 meters, roughly. This did not come this way. These reproduction models have the scopes put on in a pretty cruddy manner. And what I had to do was adjust these screws here to get the target to be more in line with the center of the actual reticle in here. When it started out, if you can imagine it, looking through like this, the center area or the crosshairs were on the lower part. I don't know if I can show that to you with the scope here, but regardless, I had to, and that was with this adjusted about midway. So what I did was basically have to turn this screw all the way up and move this scope as high in the back as possible to get that reticle to aim down so I can get the center point at least even. Then when I started shooting, this scope here was barely set at about a 9 for 900 meters. So if you read the manual, it actually tells you that you're supposed to take a screwdriver to loosen these screws here and here. You don't take them off, you just loosen them. And then you should be able to gently twist this range scope numeric device here and then move it to where you want it positioned, and then make that your ideal range target based on how the scope's set up. One thing I will say is it was way off on this. These scopes, if I can just take this off here. All right, as you're looking down the reticle here, you can see it's pretty much dead center in the scope. That is not how it's supposed to be set up. Really, it's supposed to be high, way up higher up there at a distance of 100 yards or 100 meters in this case. It shouldn't be that centered. It should be a lot higher. And then as you go further out, the reticle goes lower and lower and lower within your scope. This isn't like a modern one. This is just like the reproduction. This is a reproduction of the original ones that you see on original sniper rifles. However, because they so sloppily put this on, and even after pulling this screw all the way out and pushing this all the way up to as far as I could get the scope base to go to touch the top here, it's still not perfectly centered the way I want it to be. So this rifle will never be able to shoot at 900 or 1,000 meters. Not that it would be very good at that range anyway, but I would not be able to do it the way it's set up right now. So what I did was I got the scope as centered as possible at 100 meters and just left it at that because there's no way I'm going to find a range I can shoot it further out anyway. The other thing I have to mention is, like I said, you have to turn these screws, loosen them so that you can move the gauge or the scale if you want to manually adjust it to your own custom setting based on what you're seeing through the scope after you've sighted the rifle. Because originally, like I said, it was up at 900. I mean, it was way off because the scope wasn't adjusted properly. A little note to you folks who are going to actually do this. Make sure you, first of all, have a screwdriver flathead that's a gunsmith screwdriver set, so it'll perfectly fit inside these screws, because even then I still strip these out a little bit. They're really cheaply made in that regard, or they're very likely to strip out, and you really don't want to lose one of these screws. The other thing too is, once you loosen those screws, you are going to have to, with 2 fingers, grab this circular bar that has the scale on it and pull it down so it comes out from this cap here, so that you can move it to wherever it needs to be set after you've sighted in your gun at a specific range. And then you put the screws back on, tighten them down, and you're ready to go. So those are just little things to keep in mind. Now, let's see how I did with the targets real quick. All right, this was the first target. This was on August 12th. That's how long it's been. 100 yards, Russian surplus. 12 out of the 15 shots. This is when I was tinkering with the scope, and at a setting of 900 meters, shooting at a target at 100 yards away, I was still a little high. The grouping was pretty good. It was 15 shots, most of which were up here, a few outliers, some were up way off the target. So after we did that, we sighted in the gun a little better. Again, 14 out of 15 shots on paper. It's quite centered based on how I was shooting it. Again, with Russian surplus ammunition. I'll tell you right now, that works a lot better than any other ammunition I've used so far, oddly enough. So then we went to this last one here. This was just on the same day. I fired 10 out of 10, and as you can see, not great grouping, but after shooting with lots of wind in 100-degree weather, I think it did all right. Then, a few weeks later, it says here 8/12, I think it was late in the month. A few weeks later, I went out there. It was actually kind of rainy and wet, so this paper is kind of worn out. I'll try to hold it up here so you can see through. There you go. And this is at 100 yards with it finally sighted in. So, you know, 3 or 4 inch group, a few outliers here and there, but pretty good. Very good, actually, for a stock Mosin Nagant rifle with a scope slapped on it. So it's not a true sniper rifle, but it's as close to the real thing as I can get and still not pay $800, $900. I will tell you right now, if you go to AIM Surplus every once in a while, I think currently, they claim to have original sniper rifles, and they even have the serial number added on the side here, or listed on the side. I wonder if those are accurate or not. See, I obviously don't have it here. I don't know how accurate those really are, because they look like they've been added aftermarket. That's just my opinion. But, you know, the rifle's going for $579 through AIM Surplus, and they claim to be original sniper rifles, and in fact they may be. Maybe they're original sniper rifles from Poland as opposed to Russia, because, you know, a lot of these did go over there and they were used for that purpose at one point. So if you want to buy one of these in original condition, that'd be the cheapest place to go. Or you can go to Our Guns. They still have original 100% genuine sniper rifles for about $800 or $900, and Tiger Imports and a few other folks have them for more expensive as well. So in any event, that's it for now. This was a great rifle to have, folks. I really enjoy it where I can find a place to shoot it. Handles fairly well. It's pretty accurate and stable. The screw here gets loose every once in a while, which, you know, you hear a lot of folks complain, the main tightener screw. I just haven't gone in trouble to put JB Weld on it or anything on it to keep it from backing out. I want to leave it like this because I eventually may want to take this scope off and file it down. I don't know. I haven't decided on that yet. In any event, that's all she wrote for now.